Okay, we are in the McGraw-Page Library at Randolph-Macon College. It is June 25th, 2009. My name is Lori Preston, and also with me is Ashley Hampton. We are recording Jerry Ross, class of 1975, for the Living Legacies Oral History program. Jerry came to school here in the 70s, and then he actually has returned to campus a few years ago as the chair of the Religious Studies Department, and he is an associate professor of religion here at the college. How did you first hear about Randolph-Macon College, and who told you about it?
No one did. Used to pass through here. My father worked at Rich Food, and a friend of his drove truck and lived here in Ashland. And his name was Mr. Mines, and so we passed through and see this college. I remember the water fountain in this small little place. We passed through and see it, so that's how I first found out about that, the place here. And when I was in college finishing up my senior year, there was several persons from Richmond who were here, and I think they told the coach about me. So I met the coach then when we won the state championship in Charlottesville. That's the first time I was approached by the school.
And that was basketball.
For basketball.
Okay. Can you tell us about your first trip to the campus, in particular, when you first actually came and wandered around as a prospective student, truly?
Yes. It probably was maybe March or April of that year, because we finished the state championship and scheduled to visit some schools, and I came and I stayed with my roommate and probably contact was Fletcher Johnson. He's in the Hall of Fame with basketball, so he's probably scored the most points of anybody here. And played against him in high school, so he knew of me and whatnot. And had a great time going through the campus, and what impressed me the most, it's small. At that time it was male, so I went co-ed a month or so after I signed to come. And so I was with the first class of females. Small in the rural, and the class size, as I understand, was real small. I really loved that. And you had small number of classes, so 4 classes a term. And when you had your labs, you'd have an extra one. But I thought that was great. I come out of high school, 6 classes. And I think my last year of high school, I had 2 study halls. So that's the only study halls I ever had. And so coming here, 4 classes, I said, this is great, and you can study, because I enjoyed school. And so it gives you time to really get into the classes and stuff. Then I heard it was the J term, you call it now, was the colloquium. So the January colloquium, 1 course, and that was a gym. So it was like 4-1-4. I said, this is a wonderful schedule. It's small. I said, this is great. And it was just very cordial. At that time, we didn't even lock doors. So persons, it was very safe and very kind of neat and nice, and so I enjoyed that.
Okay. Now, can you tell us a little about when you first arrived on campus as a freshman? I mean, who did you first meet, and, was it easy to make friends? Who was your roommate?
Yeah.
Where'd you live?
Okay, when I first arrived, it was on a Sunday for orientation, and mother and father brought me here, and they had something for the parents, and the students were somewhere. I don't know if we were in Blackwell or wherever. And I think my parents left me, so I didn't get a chance to even say goodbye to them. I think my daddy said, let's go. He took my mom and left. But my roommate was Fletcher Johnson, this guy that I played against, and so we were roommates for 2 years in Garland Hall. And most of the guys on the basketball team that year that graduated with me, we were all in Garland Hall together. Eddie Webb, the coach's son, Paul Zadimer, Paul Jez, Paul Feely. Feely still is in the area. We were all down there in Garland. It was just a great experience. We kind of bonded because we're all away from home and we're in the dorm, and the older guys were leading and guiding us. And as you would suspect, we had beer. This is guys. So we were all together. And but it was really great, really exciting. On the first night, I was by myself, so Flip hadn't come. Call him Fletcher, call him Flip. Hadn't come to campus then. And so two memorable experiences my first night. A lot of water in Ashland, and it rains, the water would stand. And was this Henry Street used to be covered from where Blackwell is all the way across the street with water. You could almost ride a boat, across there.
We have pictures of students in boats
And that
in the
that
street.
happened during that time, so they've done a lot of fixing up. So my first night, I saw a nice water bug walk onto my door. It's the biggest roach I've ever seen. And then around 6 or 7 before light, a rooster crowed. I said, what in the world's going on? And I think the train came by at 7, and that shakes the whole building. So those are some of the first memorable experiences. And I guess I shedded my tears my first time being away from home. And that's probably why I came here. It's not too far. I'm first generation college, so Richmond's just down the road, so I could see my folks and stuff.
Okay. Can you tell us about how you decided on your major and who was your advisor and who influenced you?
I was just sharing with Ashley earlier that in the Virginia school system, grew up in Richmond, born and raised there. In the 8th grade, you have to declare the track that you're going to take to prepare for whatever, business, general, and I chose academic going to college, so you have to get so many maths, you have to get at least you have to get through trigonometry was the thing there, and I got a scholarship, so I got calculus in before coming. Needed about 3 years of foreign language and all the other kinds of things. So I decided college at the 8th grade and was on that route, and I really literally investigated different careers and things I was interested in. I love school, so I loved art, I love history, I love literature, I love math, I love science, and so finding something music. And I landed on ministry the summer of 1970 for my senior year at college, high school, And it was because I was interested in the Bible, and I said I love God and love people, but I wanted to understand the Bible, so it was just a fascination there. And so that's how I picked schools and how I eliminated some schools. I turned down a full scholarship to Virginia Tech, and I didn't make it to William and Murray for the visit. If I came here, this was nice and small, and I understand a good religious studies program, and some folks I was familiar with from Richmond, and like I said, it was the smallness. I was happy with the small class size. I was in honors classes my years of high school, and I should say my last year of high school, all of us were together. It was about 13, so I just loved that class size, and so we had fun with teachers. And so we party, eat, and share, and all in class while we do our work. And so it was just a nice kind of experience, and so that was here.
Okay, so when you entered, you were religious studies.
I was intending on religious studies, definitely.
Okay. Can you tell us about some of the professors who had a real influence on you here?
Well, the religious studies professors did was B.J. Seymour. She wasn't here my first year. I think she was away, I don't know if it was on sabbatical doing some work. No, she was here, Willie Chappell was not here. I think he was away doing a second master's. And so Ira Andrews, Willie Chappell, B.J. Seymour, and I did not have any courses with the chair then. His name, Cliff Edwards. He's at VCU now. He was the chair of religious studies, and so he was my advisor once I declared religious studies in my first year. I said, let me get going with it. And so I first saw B.J. Seymour and Ira Andrews in that first year. And they were they've impressed me very much so, just the love of literature with B.J. and ideas. And Ira was dean of students as well, and so he was fun and I think very encouraging and all. When I first had Willie Chappell, that was my sophomore year, Willie Chappell was just the most mild-mannered and just huggable person you'd ever want to. He fought in World War II. I just can't imagine him carrying a gun shooting somebody. But he's a wonderful guy, and we always called him Yah Willie.
Yeah, Willie.
Yah Willie Chapel. From Yahweh, is the name of
Okay.
God, so
Yeah,
we called him
yeah.
Yah Willie. But they impressed me. And I first saw here, and this may relate to my career, that you could teach Bible and make a living. Well, small living anyway. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about some of your other relationships on campus with any other people?
There were, like I said, the guys in the dorm. At that time, we had, I think it was about 17 African Americans. I may use the term blacks on campus then. And so there was 2 young ladies and the rest of us guys, and I think some more came later. Memorable persons. One gentleman, he was a junior that year. His name was Mike Gale. His brother and I were roommates for a couple of years. Doug Gale, he's now Father Nicodemus. And so we began to bond with them, and I kept ties with Doug, and they were very endearing to me. Dennis Howard was a senior. He was president of the student body, African American, and he came for one of the from one of the Legacy series, I think, and we called him Tunk. And so another was a sophomore, Reggie Barley. He was assistant Commonwealth attorney in Richmond. He went on to go to William & Mary for law school when he left here. He was a poli-sci major. The experiences of people were just endearing and enriching. I learned from my classmates, and so that was the most fun thing. I can just continue to call names of different little ones that made impact, but there was the joy of just sharing and studying, and I learned from them. This may sound weird and don't mean anything ugly with it, but when I came, fall of 71, around this area, forced busing had started in Richmond my senior year. And so my senior year of high school is when I first went to school with whites. Had a few white teachers in some summer programs, but the forced busing was there, and so I was going to predominantly black schools. And coming here, I learned about and from, and I hate to say white students, but others who are not African American, and so just the sharing and learning, and I really appreciated that, and that really was most helpful, insightful. Coming out of the 60s, you had a whole lot of civil rights kinds of things. The Woodstock generation, the burn the bra, the burn the britches, the burn the flag generation. So it was a lot of things happening in the early part of the 70s. And so we were reading Black Panther papers and reading books and identity and things. And so it was really exciting coming. And I came to learn. And so I really learned and was exposed to a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you afford a Randolph-Macon education?
I had scholarships, and so I proudly tell students and kids I had an academic scholarship and a basketball scholarship. I was a better student. I've always been a better student, and I had a loan. And so that's to manage this tuition. Now was $2,875 when I started, $2,875 or something like that when I started, and when I finished, it was like $3,100 or $3,200 or something when I finished, and that was quite a bit of money then. But I had those two, and so I was really happy. I was really happy to make it, and I eventually got my loan paid back after I finished the rest of my school and stuff.
Did you have any jobs on campus?
I didn't have any jobs on campus. Worked during the summer.
Okay.
And so I worked during the summer and saved up my money so I could have food. And I'd buy my jeans and stuff during the summer and things and books and supplies. Also being close, my folks would come and visit me, so I was a good friend to a lot of the A lot of the other guys on campus, they were very friendly. My folks would see me every 2 weeks and bring shopping bags of food. And so I was a hit with my friends. They know that I would eat.
And speaking of food, how bad was the cafeteria food?
Ooh, my freshman year, the food to me was just typical cafeteria food, and so I didn't have any complaints. Certainly where I went to school, you have some good days, some bad days. But my freshman year, they had a food riot. And I was in basketball practice. But the food riot, I understand it went down like at 6 o'clock. Everybody was sitting in there. You could cut the tension, and then it broke out. Food was on the ceiling. On the walls, folks threw stuff, and I think folks ducked behind the counters, the workers, and they changed food services after that. I was in basketball practice, and the coach came and pleaded that they feed us, and so we had to sweep off some chairs and sat down and ate. But after that, the food got increasingly, significantly better, and they changed food services, but they had a nice food ride then. And so we missed all the fun.
That's not necessarily a bad thing for your clothing. Okay, I'll turn it over now to Ashley.
Okay. What kind of clubs and activities did you do outside of basketball while you were a student?
Yes. Knowing I'm going into ministry, my second Sunday on campus, I went to church, and so I found a church. And usually at the fall of the year, it's like the monsoon season. And so I walked to church with an umbrella, and I was wet up to my knees by the time I got there. I was on my way to a church. They didn't list all the churches, so I was on my way to First Baptist. And a black gentleman, elderly gentleman, gave me a ride, and I said, I'm on my way to the church. And he said, well, there's a black church around here. And so that's how I got to Shiloh on James Street, and had been teaching Sunday school since I was 15. And so when I went into service, the deacon asked me to teach the youth class, and I started teaching there. And so I was always a part of a fellowship group. I was saying all that to get to the point that all of the so-called Christians on campus discovered each other. I would come to lunch late on Sundays with my Bible and dressed in my suit. So obvious pick. And then others would bow our heads and pray. And so we over our food. And so other kinds of little obvious things. And so we finally found each other out, and we began to meet and share. And it was my sophomore year we formed Good News Christian Fellowship, is what it was called. And we had contacts with InterVarsity. InterVarsity, representative of what would come and work with us. I know it was either, I think after my freshman year or my sophomore year, numbers of us got together and planned over the summer to develop and organize our Good News Christian Fellowship, and we did. We met, and so it was just a rich experience there. I didn't join, well, you looked at fraternities and stuff, and so I go to the parties and share. Certainly, the Good News Christian Fellowship was basically my mainstay, and I attended a lot of things on campus. That was a great exposure. We used to have movies on campus, free movies, and so in Blackwell, and so keep in mind during this time, Ashland didn't look as it did now, and so at 6 o'clock or at dark, Ashland was in bed. There was nothing going on except the truck stops. And the truck stop, that was a long walk. So none of these stores and stuff out there, hotels, it was just nothing but woods to get to that truck stop. I said that's important because the CX were closed. The only place you would eat is down at the truck stop or the 7-Eleven, which is next to where Bank of America is. There was a 7-Eleven there. And so these were the places where you go and try to get you something to eat. And so movies, I would go to the fraternity places, and there were no sororities on campus, so where the sorority houses are were fraternity houses. And so bunches of those we'd go and share and whatnot. I did become a member of some honorary societies. I think it was Eta Sigma Phi was the classics one. ODK, leadership thing, that was in my junior year. I think junior year in both of those. And so those were the two that I joined. But that was it as far as organizations. The black students formed an organization, and so we organized together because we had each other. Yeah, and I won't say the name, but we took a derogatory name and used it as ours, and so. But we were on campus together, and so we would plan to do things together like that.
Okay. You mentioned that an InterVarsity representative worked with Good News. So were they two separate organizations, and you worked together, or was Good News, did it kind of become InterVarsity?
Yeah. Well, I think the InterVarsity, I call it rep because he came here, I guess, to make contact and then try to get us involved and make us aware of it. So I think it was pretty much like a ministry for his. So I don't think we were officially a part of InterVarsity, but I think he came to try to make contact with us. It was Good News was just the name that we gave to our fellowship. So we would meet on Thursday nights in Duncan. And for prayer and singing and all. And we had numbers of different activities. During Christmas, we made wreaths to give. During Holy Week, particularly Good Friday, we did the Stations of the Cross. And we would go out on, sometimes do different community things like that. And so that was really kind of neat there. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you went to Shiloh. Do you remember any students that went to Duncan or any of the other local churches?
I'm thinking numbers of the students did because I say that because most of the students I think were United Methodists that I would have known. And so I think they did attend, Duncan. And I'd say I'm thinking because I think they were in the United Methodist Church, and I'm thinking beyond that first year. Stephen Hundley was a year after me. I understand Steve is with the United Methodist, and I think he may be higher up in the administration of sorts. Robbie Vaughn, who finished with me, he teaches some courses here. I think he's United Methodist, I think. He used to be a disc jockey at the radio station, a religious radio station. We would go out and hear him and everything, and so it was just neat with Robbie out there. Who are some of the others? Oh, yuck. Those were the main ones in my class. Doug Gale was in world religions, and so he wasn't so much for the ministry bent, but he was into Eastern religions, and that's where Dr. Cliff Edwards was his emphasis, and so Doug traveled and things with that. Another religious studies major was Grady Love. I think Grady Love went to William Murray Law School after this time, and so I think he moved and pursued that. But those were some of the main ones. Keep in mind now, my class that graduated was about 104, or something like that. So typically we don't have many religious studies majors, and so you would know each other. There was a few others in the class. Oh, gosh. I think his name was Gabe. I can't call his name. Can't tell you his name to save my life. But all of us took Hebrew together. Gabe and there was a few others. Another was Miller. Oh, and these were different classes. We're all together, so I can barely eke out their names. I have to go through my book and pull them out.
So would you say the college and Duncan Memorial had a pretty good relationship? Was their presence felt on campus, or was it kind of distant?
I think it was felt. Okay. It was felt because I remember going there for numbers of our religious worship services and stuff on the campus because I'm not sure what it is now, but I know the United Methodist presence was strong and felt on campus. And the bishop would come and we'd have some services there, and that was par for the course. I remember attending and going. There once was either a black African American moderator or bishop that came, and I remember hearing him speak. I can't call his name to save my life, at Duncan Memorial, and we had the chapel services there. They were not mandatory, but that was before the time that I had come. You had to take religious studies then, and maybe chapel attendance may have been required, but I know you had to take religious studies before then. Also, that was along with wearing beanies and ties. So all of that was a little bit before me, and so some of that may have been just wearing off a tad bit. But United Methodist presence was definitely here, and the chaplain was key for helping us. So he worked with our fellowship group. Some students sometimes were kind of again, they kind of didn't like the chaplain. I also didn't. There are differences with the chaplain. You know, they thought he was maybe too this or that or controlling. His name was Chaplain Bill Gibson. I remember him. Okay. He provided funds for me to go to a lot of retreats in different places and stuff, for religious retreats, and he shared these things. And that was just very helpful for me because it was eye-opening, going to the retreats and being a part of fellowship groups, you know. Mm-hmm. And growing up, some of the youth group movements hadn't hit as strongly at that time when I was growing up. I know when I got to seminary and began to work in the association, Baptist Association, with which I've grown, we had to make the push to get youth this and youth that, so it hadn't come that far. And so these retreats were really great. Went to Massanutten up in D.C. to another retreat, and sometimes we hadn't planned them out ourselves, and so it was really fun. Yeah.
Was there a clear pre-ministerial program when you were here, or was it more informal and you just went to retreats together? Yeah,
more informal. I don't think it was very clear, pronounced. And I managed my way through with the assistance of the faculty. I think they would say, you would need this or that as you move along with ministry. Mm-hmm. And so we were helped by the chaplain, and you talk with different faculty. I know before even landing on campus, the classics professor, I guess, had heard of my coming, and I guess may have heard of my interest, and he shared with me that you're going in religious studies, well, Greek would be good for you to take. And so I didn't take any advanced placement exams. I had 8 years of French in public school, so I just started taking Greek, and so I probably had Greek for 4 years here. And I did manage to get Hebrew in. Hebrew was so exciting. I said, gosh, Hebrew, that's something there. Yeah. And so only a few have taken that. And so I've managed to get that in. But, those are some things that I kind of learned along the way. And talked with a few schools about, and instructors about what would be required for ministry, moving on to seminary. And the typical requirements were a good undergraduate education. And so usually in the seminaries, they're going to teach you Bible and this and that. And so what is usually the case is having a good, solid undergraduate experience with all of your, I think, distribution and things in place. And so that was what really kind of struck me. And my interest in Bible was driving me, and so I took Bible as much as I could, and I was able to integrate it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so that was a real neat thing for me, so that it wasn't the typical denominational study of the Bible, and so that was exciting. I've been a kind of realist, and so some of the stuff doesn't make sense, and just coming into my own, so I was very open-minded. And so this answered a lot of my real questions. And persons didn't force me here or there, and they showed the evidence of it. And so that was kind of stimulating for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You mentioned that you went on to, I guess, join the Baptist church. Did you get a sense that many of the pre-ministerial students were going on to join the Methodist Church or the Virginia Conference, or was there much diversity and
Yeah.
A lot of different people went different directions.
I think different directions, usually as whatever denominations they were part of when they came, they just continue with those.
Okay.
Maybe a few may have crossed over and moved around, but I'm just thinking of some of the students. They were mostly United Methodists. Can't recall too many others as such, and certainly some Baptists, Didn't have a whole lot of the different denominations that we have now, so that was, that's been much, much later then. But, and we found great fellowship. I did a lot of retreats with the United Methodists.
Mm-hmm.
and have kept numbers of friends there, and so it was just fun going.
Okay. Well, I guess, would you like to talk now about what you did after Randolph-Macon and how you eventually ended up back as a professor?
I know I was going into ministry. That was a plan. What I had first seen, or rather what I saw here for the first time, was the matter of teaching as a viable option, as a career, that hadn't stuck or dawned on me. As a person's teaching about, I said, that's really fun. And upon leaving, plan on going to seminary and then maybe try to do something further beyond that. I was thinking of working in church, but upon coming here, I saw the teaching option, and I knew I was going to seminary. So upon going to seminary, I discovered and realized some kind of facts that there are not many African Americans in Bible in the nation, and probably we can even say within the world, who have credentialed doctorates from accredited schools. And so there was a shortage and a need. I had an interest. I said, well, this is something I want to pursue. And I've been bookish all my life, and so I've had to work hard in learning people. And learning that people don't operate logically. and so I recognized this at an early age, and I said, I don't know if I'm ready for pastoring yet, and so the books look like a simpler deal than dealing with people, and so I pursued the teaching thing. That gives me more time to mature and stuff. I knew I had some raw edges and sharp ones, and so the teaching thing was there. And so as I got to seminary and began looking, I said, dog, I got 4 more years or whatever after this to go for a doctorate. I said, this thing, will it ever end? I said, so I'll pursue it. And I did. And it was, it's been fun. It's taken longer than I had hoped, but I finally did it. My doctoral experience, I did my coursework, 4 years of it, and then I decided to eat. And so I got a job. I started teaching in '82 at Virginia Union in the seminary. That was my seminary alma mater. And so they had kept track of me and knew that I was pursuing this, so they gave me an opportunity to teach even before I finished my doctorate. And I taught there for 24 years, and then I came here. Okay. So I've been here 3 years now. All right, did those coursework, and I didn't finish my doctorate till almost 20 years later. So I finished my doctorate in '97. That takes some explaining. Several things that I can account for it. The program was young that I was in. It was the program Pitt Theological Seminary and University of Pittsburgh. University of Pittsburgh's program, but the seminary faculty were running it. Seminary faculty predominantly Presbyterian. That's Presbyterian school because that's where Steve Toole went. And University of Pittsburgh, pretty much it's non-denominational or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And so they hadn't ironed out all the kinks in the program. Seminary faculty were running the program with their ideas of this and that, and I don't think they had reconciled those and put those things together. So there were some friendly fire tensions, I think, between the faculty and a lot of the students in it. These doctoral, we got caught in the mix. I had an advisor, bless his memory. I think he's still alive that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And he may have been in the midst of some of that tension. His name is Hans Eberhard von Waldo. He was a Nazi tank commandant. He was drafted in the army, and I think his father was a Lutheran minister. He served in prisoner of war camps, I think, thereafter. And members of the faculty at the university who ran that program were Jewish. So I think there may have been possible tensions. I'm only just surmising that there may have been tensions behind closed doors. And so I didn't get all of the advising that I needed, the mentoring that I needed, and I really had to plot my way along. And so sometimes I share with students about perseverance and about being self-motivated. I worked sometimes in the dark, studying and working until I made it, and I think my hard work paid off. Thought about giving up sometimes. So December 1991, I did my comprehensive exams. Managed to pass them and everything, even getting to that point. One faculty dropped out, found out, called them, I've retired. Called to talk to my advisor. He retired and didn't call me. So there were some rams in the bush along the way, and some perseverance paid off. And December 96, the dissertation was written and submitted. I defended it. Remember the dates exactly. Friday, January the 31st, 1997. It was the greatest day of my life. It was fun.
And the title of your dissertation?
It's simple label, The Composition of the Holiness Code, Leviticus 17 through 26. And just fun. I mean, learning is fun. And so the criticism, that didn't bother me. So if you can explain to me why and the points of it, and so that was really fun, and it was a learning experience. I've always been a self-motivated, independent learner. And so here's where my perseverance paid off, and getting that degree was the last of my childhood goals. And so my childhood ended finally. And now I'm rushing to make up time to, it sounds funny, to finish up my life. And so the thing is, what will I leave behind? And so to try to write and do some things like that. Mm-hmm. But the school here, what I did here, provided the foundation for my whole career. Mm-hmm. And so I was introduced to critical religious studies, critical Bible study, not the Bible school kind of thing where it may be denominational leaning. We learned methods, we're introduced to that, learned language, and saw these kinds of things are implemented with literature and the whole liberal arts reinforcing, and that was great. When I went to seminary, most of my classmates did not have that, and sometimes the class experience was not as whatever as I would have liked. Mm-hmm. I'm a self-motivated person, so I'm always reading outside the class. And I would help tutor my classmates. And so that would strengthen me, and so those are kinds of things along the way. And so as I teach now, I try to tell students, kids. I'm sorry. I don't mean to study together. You can learn from each other, and to explore, and take advantage of it. The opportunities. You have more time now to do whatever than you ever have. I work 2 jobs now, and I have been working 2 jobs since '82. So I pastor and I teach. And even in the course of that time, I wrote a dissertation. And so life goes on.
So what is it that enticed you to come to Randolph-Macon after all your years in your other previous position?
I wanted to get out of seminary. And the pendulum has swung in the general trends of religion to a kind of right position. When I say right position, the labels in my community, full gospel, word churches, and a lot of what I'm seeing is sometimes very staunch, not as critical and thorough interpretations of the Bible. And they come to seminary like that. The students would come. Most of the students I taught in seminary are older than I, even now, and so they come like that, and they're not willing to dig and to wrestle. And so the seminary experience, sometimes it lacked some joy for me. Well, I won't say joy. It lacked something for me. And so I would like to be in a neutral, open, liberal arts kind of experience. And so getting out of the seminary was nice, where I can scientifically, as I study the Bible, using all of the disciplines and approaches of liberal arts education. And so I have managed to do that in my upbringing from here on through. And I think numbers of the students that I've taught, and I've probably taught over thousands now, they said, like some of your classmates, I'm a hard teacher, but I'm pushing because I have to push them out the box. They already have the answer before we've done the research. I said, no, I have to push them. I'll either just get them to see and to read the text, taste it.
That is the hardest part, getting out of that box.
Yeah, I'm just finished talking about short stories with a student this summer, and when she read the short story, we always stop at the part where Jonah is in the belly of a whale, and it doesn't say whale, it says fish. The end of the story tells us it's not about Jonah at all. Or either to read the story of Ruth. Ooh, with no blinders on. You get a whole different spiel. Let the chips fall where they may. I call it get on the roller coaster. Once you get on, you can't get off, and you cannot determine where you're going. It has to carry you there. And we want control. And so I'm just thinking the modern scientific approach says that you are to check your premises and operate with the most permissible ones. Do all your research in angles and compile your data and see where you're going to go. And be as objective. Stay out of it. Don't take any sides. And that's kind of a real kind of struggle. Also getting to Randolph-Macon, I would love to, my dream job would be to teach religious studies, biblical studies, as I teach it in high school. What I attempt to do in class, and you've been in some, is to stay neutral, but to help students recognize the box they're in and maybe to push them out of it, or even to help them build windows. So you can see there's an outside to your box, and be careful what box you're in, because I say it could be your coffin. And so just to push persons, and so I really like doing that. And so I would love to do that in a high school or something, because religion is part of life. And so everybody believes something. These are some of the things that I've learned along the way. And I'm just thinking, I've been, what I say, a realist and a believer, and the two are not the same. And so I'm not religious, but I'm a believer. I believe some things, but my beliefs make sense to some extent. Yeah, not totally, because I can't totally explain it, but they make some sense. And so I don't think that I ever will walk on water. And so. And so here, so I read the Bible, this ancient text, with some sense that these are ancients, this is the way they spoke, but they meant something. What do they mean? And to grasp that, and what does it mean to believe? And so that's a kind of tough road to toe. But I think it's doable, and I think it's beautiful. What it does, it makes you trust. And so God, for me, scares me as much as God comforts me. And so I don't have God figured out. And so I honestly do pray. I tell the students at seminary, no matter how putrid sometimes my existence may be, they see me great and stuff. Blessed, but I believe, and so I don't have God figured out. So I go to bed at night sometimes wondering whether I'll get up in the morning, or either I'm looking down the pike now and saying, how many years do I have left? and and I have to trust. And so that's a thought that strikes me, and so that keeps me going. I don't know if students will realize that I pray for them. I have prayers written in my books. I have a class prayer that I use before going to class. I've written over hundreds of prayers for different occasions, and I use those here.
That's great. So how do you think the Methodist presence has changed from your time as a student to today, now that you're a faculty member teaching Bible?
I think it was more pronounced then, and because it was nothing to see. I don't know, I call it Methodist personnel, either bishops or different ones coming on campus, and even services. I've been here now, and I don't see that many services that were provided. And Chaplain Gibson at that time, I think he worked with us all and had services, because you have to be kind of ecumenical, but I think the Methodist presence was more pronounced then. And I think United Methodists were much stronger. My sense, and that's from my working at Virginia Union School of Theology, we had a partnership with the United Methodists, and we were designated as one of their learning centers. Since there are no United Methodist seminaries between Wesleyan, Washington, and North Carolina, Virginia Union, most of the white students that came there were United Methodists. So we have had very good ties with them. And so from those little inside peeks, to my sense, they may have been wrestling with numbers and things of this sort. And I think this is one of the stronger areas. And so, so during that time when I was here, I felt and sensed that presence. Like I said, I went to numbers of United Methodist retreats to lead them and then to participate in them. And so that was really kind of neat and fun. And I'm not sure how many other denominations were reflected then. So you'd have to check the stats then. But even during the summer, I worked in the Centenary United Methodist Church in Richmond on Gray Street. I worked in their summer program for 3 summers. And so one of the fellows he was a senior when my freshman year, is Dave Heinman. He became a deacon and then moved on up in the United Methodist Church. And so I worked at Centenary several summers, and so I was exposed healthily to United Methodist. When I went to Pittsburgh, a little bit of Virginia Union experience, and then Pittsburgh, I was exposed to the Presbyterian Church. When I got to the seminary experience in Richmond, we were at RTC. It was really a Richmond Theological Consortium. It was Union Theological Seminary, Presbyterian School of Christian Ed was separate, and it was Virginia Union. And so we stayed on campus and lived and breathed the same air and shared all kinds of activities. I learned about what the Hampton-Sydney Randolph-Macon game is about. It's Presbyterians versus United Methodists. And I said, because we just wanted to beat them because they said they are arch rivals. And by the time I got to Pittsburgh, we stayed on the Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, which is Presbyterian again. It was clear this is a denominational rivalry. I said, oh my goodness. And so they beat them, beat them, beat those, whatever they are. I can't even think what they are. Tigers. So, but it was just very interesting, though. But I think the United Methodist presence was certainly felt. I don't know where the students pray and gather now, but Duncan was the place. Okay. Typically the church was not even locked, so you could go in and pray every time in the day. And they would visit and see students and stuff, and so that was really neat. I don't know what the kind of protocol or things with the United Methodist Church, so, but it was just, I was curious. I was going to watch and see.
Okay. I guess my last question,
Okay.
unless Lori has any more, is do you think the relationship with the Virginia Conference and the Methodist Church is simply a matter of historical significance now, and do you think it'll last?
I wonder about it. I think it may last. I don't think it is as significant as it was from what I've heard from faculty and as I've heard the discussions. I know that I call them representatives because I don't know the proper labels. I think they visit the campus from time to time and they check on our programs. I know that Bailey Scholars is one of the newer developments. But I thought I heard that there may have been some formal types of distinctions that have been made now between college running things and the United Methodist Church, and that may have determined the course of things. And so I'm wondering, I'm just wondering, I'm thinking probably because of history, we may keep those ties, but I'm not sure that they'll be significantly felt or developed, or at least there's some room for improving it, and hopefully they will. I don't see any reason not to. What I sense is it's kind of hard to be parochial. Well, I won't say that. How can I say it? The schools that are parochial have to have the strong support of that denomination, and I'm not sure that I see that with the United Methodists, with Randolph-Macon. I don't see that. I don't glimpse that. I just chaired my first year back, but I don't see that input or impact where we sit down and discuss and share. I know they come in and the chair has to give reports and things like that, but that seemed to be kind of superficial. I don't seem to be as integral, as before. And so I wonder. Maybe it's something I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been very helpful. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
I hope it helped. Okay.
We have a few more remarks here.
Before the final exams, we had a week of study, and those were some of the most enjoyable times. I do it now as I teach. I don't have class the week before the finals. When I was here, we would have that week, call it reading days. We'd have a whole week to study before finals, and guys would get together in study groups of all sorts. And we studied for almost 5 to 8 hours a day, prepping for exams. And it was enjoyable. Yes, persons are going to party, blow off steam, but you had to study for these exams. And it was just great. At Christmas time, it was fun because they would have snacks for us in the evenings with our study breaks. And it snowed here then during those times, and we would have our snowball escapades. But it was just great for that kind of studying experience. School is fun here, or was at least, and it was a great joy in doing it. And persons really did it. I mean, that time, we turned in typed papers. Typed papers. Yeah, you don't have computers, so with a typed paper, you have to write it first, edit it, then type it. And so you could have typewriters going in the dorms and different places in the library. And we got this work done. It was just fun. I think it's a gem. And I did mention, yes, the studying in the faculty's houses. So we go there for the special occasions like that to read and study and share, or even in the CX, the small classes were. The small classes were... they were, I don't know if they were promoted, they were respected. And so numbers of classes in religious studies. There would have been 3, 4, and 5 of us in class. And that's great for education. One, you can't hide. So if you haven't done your work, you stand out. You stand out and you make the class go. And we shared papers in the seminar sessions, and it was just wonderful. That's the most beautiful experience. If you go to the larger schools, you just may not get that. And so being here and being groomed by this, once you get to the larger schools and get to the competitive places, I think if you do your work here, you can really excel. And it happened. For me, when I went off, I saw persons weren't writing papers like 2 cents. They weren't putting together thoughts, didn't understand the methods and things, and it was kind of frustrating because sometimes the class was spent dealing with their issues. And but coming from this, it prepped me and got me ready for graduate school when I eventually got to there. So that was really fun.
So you were able to go to many of your professors' homes and get to know them better?
Yeah, they lived around here too, and so that was really neat, really neat. And the seminary experience was similar to it. It was a small type of seminary, so I had 11 in my class who graduated together from seminary. Virginia Union has grown over tenfold. Now it's hundreds of folks in one class, but when I went there, was 11 of us, so it's very small, and that made it really nice. And when you go to graduate school, it's pretty much, for doctorates and stuff, that's pretty much an independent study type of thing. And so, but going here with that smallness and the kind of, I think, intimacy with your education, you can get the special help you need. This is a gem. This is a gem. Yeah. My great hope and sometimes my anxiety is that students may graduate from here with not getting what they should have gotten, without getting the fullness. This is a great place to be. And I think other colleges that are like this, the small colleges, is where the action is, I think. I really think so.
This is one question I forgot to ask. Did you ever get to go abroad or travel much outside of those retreats?
Never traveled much. I don't think we had too many of the study abroad programs. They may have been coming in shortly thereafter, but they were not a feature like talk about. You'd have to look at some of the catalogs in that time.
Okay.
They were also fighting some battles. It was a battle to get women here. They thought that women couldn't learn, and there was all kinds of things in the experiences. So they were fighting some other battles, and to my knowledge, I just recently learned fighting financial battles of keeping the school above board. I didn't know all of that then, but the education was just second to none. Yeah, I didn't travel abroad, but maybe learn from friends. I had some friends from France. I remember Philippe at France. I would mess with him, and he would. He learned a lot of the local lingo. He learned those new juicy words. He learned those, and so I messed with Philippe. Several others. I know one came back to speak either this year or last year. I think her name was Dorothy Coe. She was here when I was, and her sister, I think Marita Coe, graduated with me, but Dorothy Coe was her sister or a cousin was a couple of years back. She was here during the time I was here. And so I had some international students, some from Spain, Philip from France. There was a few. I understand there were numbers of Jewish students that was here then. They said the numbers may have gone down when we went co-ed. My sense of what I got is that the Jewish parents were sending their boys here because it was all male school for the good quality education. Not saying anything ugly about ladies, because I think ladies are wonderful, but I guess they were worried if they meet some of these Gentile ladies, they may be so persuaded in other ways. And ladies are very convincing, I must say. I think it's wonderfully said, And so I've met some fellows and stuff, so just the sharing was really great like that. a few cases went home with them or something like that, you know.
With your retreats, were they all pretty much here in Virginia, or did you go a little further abroad? In the
Just
state?
Virginia
Just
for the most part.
Okay.
Virginia, a lot of the mountain retreats areas, some Massanutten. There's one other retreat area we went to, and one was down Presbyterian Church off Jefferson David Highway, it's just south of Richmond. I remember going down there with a guy, King Pickett. He was a child of missionaries, and so we did retreats together, and so those were just fun kind of experience. I can't remember all the places I went, but around here in Virginia was a nice retreat area.
Regionally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I forgot to ask you about, did you study in the library? Did the students use the library much?
They used the library.
What was it like?
You have your I call it, I won't say your library groupies, the persons who really studied in the library, and so you would see them there, and I can call such names. One guy was named Morgan. He was a year ahead of me. He was a outstanding student. He studied in the library. I don't like studying in the library because I want to be alone. Of course, the library does not, you know, but it was no buildings for us to gather. The campus center was built somewhere my junior or senior year. So we had no gathering place. The library was it. And certainly you hear some buzzing, but persons would study. For me, I would like to be alone, so I get my books out of the library, stay as long as I had to, and go to my room and I would study. But I got like studying in my room, and I did study, you know. And so, and with my hours, you know, I like early mornings and late night. And so, but the library was used, you know. Keep in mind, no computers.
Yeah.
So you had to go to a card catalog. I have a theory that if the students had to write papers from a card catalog today, they might be lost. You had to go and connect ideas and develop plans. What topic is associated with this? And you make the logical connects of your dad. I'm not speaking ugly. I don't mean to speak ugly of the classes now. But I'm just thinking, if you haven't had the card catalog experience, it's a whole different thing.
Keyword.
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing. So you don't Google anything. You are the Google. You have to sit down and connect and draw out strategies. So, you know, if I'm going to work with this topic, what other topics are related? What other angles I can take? And you do it like that to work out a bibliography. And you go hand by hand all the way through it. And so I still have some cards from my card catalog. Queries and stuff, just fun though.
Yeah.
And so everybody had to end up at the library at some time or another.
Okay.
I had friends who weren't in religious studies. One guy said, I couldn't find anything on this topic. Are you kidding? I went on in here and got him off some books here, you know, and we help each other like that, you know, so it was really neat though. But look at the learning experiences. You connect ideas, you research and all, and really fun. Really fun.
Now, you said on the weekends you'd have to figure out ways to keep yourselves entertained and busy. Do you remember people that would go home often or go into Richmond or even up to D.C.? Were people able to get off campus?
If there was nothing on campus, persons left. And so those who had cars. And so either they go visit friends, girlfriends, go to other places to party, go to other games, things of this sort. This sounds interesting, but this is a part of my own personal growth. I learned to live with myself. So I stayed on campus, and many weekends I may have been bored. And I learned to appreciate boredom. It sounds funny, but I think what boredom means is the capacity to live with yourself and to enjoy and appreciate things. And so I would study, and I would work, and I'd be here. And sometimes it was lonely or boring, you know. But I learned to, for lack of a better word, to live with myself and appreciate the moments. And so I explored other things on campus. And so I went to some of the movies or the different activities. They would bring different ones on campus. So I attended those and learned from it and exposed myself to other kinds of things. I enjoy some bluegrass. I know all the other kind of stuff, some classical things. I remember I think it was it Charlie Bird that played the classical guitar of sorts. I'm not sure what his name was, but he came here, different other ones. And so I learned to I learned to appreciate quiet times, and I think it was just a discipline for me. And I just had to come to grips with myself as well. I collect records. Records. I don't know if you ever heard of records.
Yeah, I've heard of records.
I have albums. And now I'm burning my albums onto disc, and so I collect records. I didn't get a television for myself until some years later, so I listened to the radio and I collect records, and I would study my music, and so those were things that kept me going. I started smoking my pipe in my sophomore year. And so I would sit and puff my pipe and relax and listen to music and meditate, whatnot. So it was enjoyable. Got a bike, would go out in the countryside. I was a big brother to a family that was here in the area, and so those were fun things.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is my last question. I just like to ask for fun. Do you have any fun stories or any prank stories? We've read different accounts of students that like to pull pranks through the years at Randolph-Macon.
What pranks we had? Well, there's a couple that I remember pranks persons played. We used to have water battles in the dorms, in the motel dorms as we call them. And so persons would get balloons and water, and they would go attack other dorms. And so I remember those kinds of experiences. I remember it snowed on a regular basis up here, and so we would go and throw snowballs at the girls. And so somebody would go up and knock on their room door and get them to come out. And the guys would jump out of the closets and deliver the snowballs. Or we'd throw girls in the fountain.
Oh, no.
And so these were just some of the fun things. I think they grabbed the girl was going to throw in the fountain. Her mother drove by. They dropped her and ran. And these are some of the crazy pranks that some of the guys did. Oh, gosh. Guys would walk other guys into poles. What happens? You talk with them and you make eye contact and keep them looking at you, and you walk them right into the pole. So you get them talking and you keep their head turned towards you and talk, and then walk them right into the pole. And we all would lay out and laugh at them. So we did. You had to entertain yourself, so we had each other, and it's a wonder we didn't destroy each other. But we did. Our guys, we did a lot of crazy things. Oh boy, yeah, gosh. Oh, we did some crazy stuff, but it was fun. It was all in fun.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for this little addition onto your interview. We really appreciate it. So.
Thank you.